Hey guys, so of course we just had that new ban list announced, and now it's not going to actually take into effect until like next Monday. But for now, let's have some fun and sort of do a tier list of what the meta will look like post ban list. So it's certainly open to your feedback as well. And so certainly let me know in the comments on what you think the meta will look like. So let's just get started with this tier list. And so I guess we'll start with, let's say, like Drytron, sure. I think it's probably still in the other category. They did get orange to 3, which is always kind of nice for them, but at the same time, it's usually a lot better for them when they actually have Eva, which is still unfortunately banned. So let's go with Infernoble. This I think is still going to be Rogue. It did top 8 the YCS Vancouver, which was actually my good friend Bester. So you can certainly go check out that profile. It's really, really good. But I think until Age of Overload comes out, where they get the Angel Wing equip card, which can really help them with Dark Ruler, a lot better than whatever that the counter trap can help them out with. So I think for now it's still in Rogue. I think it's very clear now at this point, Unchained is the best deck of the format. It's been getting the most amount of YCS tops, but it really is like a very resilient deck and can just play through a lot of interruptions and can be good going first or second. So this is branded Despia. This is still going to be in tier 2 now with the ban list. Some of the benefits that it has is that basically you have, let's say Magmana 1-1, and that card is really, really strong against branded Despia. No surprise. The Gimmick Lock did not get banned, so that is not only still good, but at the same time with Magmana being limited, that makes it easier to pull it off. At the same time, I think with this ban list now, you have Kashira not as like tier 1 anymore, which means, people can just like now focus solely on like Pearly as well as Unchained. And, D-Barrier was already very, very popular, and, it didn't get banned. So, against branded Despia or Chimera, like it's really, really strong. Like they just don't have any other extra deck mechanics that they can go into for the most part. So that's that. Speaking of Chimera, this I wanted to put in tier 1, which would be a very distant tier 1 after Unchained and Pearly, but I've been testing this a lot lately. I'm actually just gonna put it in tier 2. Like the representation has kind of fallen as well. Like this deck, it's good because it's kind of consistent. It has like very clear one-line combo, but at the same time, if you Ash Mirror Sword Knight, like a lot of times this deck just does not have any other plays. Like, and the Branded Fusion in this deck is not nearly as powerful as Branded Fusion in Branded Despia, because for the most part they're like bringing out Rinbrum, and it's like sure it's okay, but in Branded Despia they can do a lot more plays with Branded Fusion. So I think I'm still going to put Chimera here. Don't get me wrong, I'm a branded player, but yeah, I think I'm just trying to, be a little realistic, but certainly let me know in the comments if you feel that very strongly that it is still tier 1. Maroon says, of course, it's Rogue, but you really can't sleep on this. This always gets consistent amount of tops. So far in this Dune format, it does still have some regional tops as well. I'm going to go Sprite and like Runic. They're kind of combined together, but also not really, because there's also different sprite variants that's not runic, including sort of nowadays considered as pure, which is like the going second version that I think Kang Fam always utilizes and does well. And runic, runic for higher sprite, runic twin sprite, or maybe just certain other runic variants. A lot of the times, I think probably at the edge of tier 2 still. Like Sprite for some reason has fallen off a lot in the last month or so. It wasn't that long ago that runic twin sprite was like tier 1 for sure. I think now, especially with runic cards still also not being hit on the ban list, and Sprite can still, it's like pretty consistent, right? It didn't get any hits. It still has started at 2 at the very least, and still has something as powerful as Sprint. So I think it's for now tier 2 is fine. Mathmech, we're also going to put it along the lines of like Marin says. It's also Rogue. It has a little bit amount of regional tops so far, and you know what? It's as good as they come. And with Magmana being put to 1, this is actually really, really good for Mathmech. Flunder, I'm actually also going to put it at tier 2, I think. You could also argue maybe best to Rogue. I just think that with like Unchained or Inferno, or not Infernoble, but just in general, like Flunder, it's now the best deck that can utilize Shifter yet again, or maybe you could argue Kashira is still up there still, but I think it's still very, very strong. You just cannot sleep on this deck, and you know what, it's still got some plays. Punk, let's just go with that. Just put that as Rogue as well. I think it actually got a little bit of tops as well in terms of regional, not much. Like it's definitely fallen off a lot in terms of synchro strategies. Let's say you might as well just play Vanadium, right? Which I also believe is still tier 2. Maybe at the edge, it's definitely been a disappointment, you could argue, since heading into this Dune format, people kind of expected this to be one of the best decks, if not the best deck, and that definitely has not fallen out in that standard. And speaking of something similar is Adventure Synchron. That also at the beginning there was some hype. I think it's definitely not seeing any play. I think maybe it had like 1 regional top among all the regionals that's happened since Duelist Nexus. So it definitely has been a disappointment, but at the same time, I still would never want to go against this deck because it's probably going to hand loop you. Mikanko is another interesting one. This is definitely actually like not talked about enough, but it is definitely in the rogue contender section because it actually has a good several tops at least. It's interesting. It's going second strategy. So they're just gonna like lava golem you or kaiju you or whatever, and then just start beating you down and inflict damage to you with their Mikanko herds while they don't take damage. And it's pretty interesting to say the least. Definitely can catch people off guard. Let's see, Vanquished Soul. I also wanted to put this at like top of Rogue, but I think that might be a little disrespectful. It's just that my tier 2 section is going to start getting really large. Maybe I'll just put it here. Because you know what, at least up until YCS Sao Paulo, like it did have top or 2 as well. In regional top wise, it actually still does have a good amount of tops as well. Enough to at least put them at tier 2. Post ban list will kind of fall back to Rogue, maybe. But I think for now, if we go with as is, it might still be worthwhile. So Great. We're gonna put this at Rogue as well. If this thing will move. You know what? It got Gazelle to 3. That's really not a surprise with Soul Burning Volcano set. Realistically, I think people expected them to kind of really get put to 3. You know, just hype up the product as well. And you know what? It was actually getting a decent amount of tops. Kind of fallen off lately. Definitely no YCS tops, unfortunately. But maybe, and maybe with this Gazelle to 3, they can. So that's kind of interesting. Dark World. Okay, so for now, I wanted to put it in other actually. For now, let's put it in Rogue, and then let's see if we have to like rebalance that. Just because, on one hand, the play of Droll has fallen down, right? Ever since like Vanadium was not as hyped up as it was. Magma going to 1 will also help Dark World as well. I just think that, I don't know, like if, you know, if people also start playing Droll again or something, like it's okay, like it's not bad, but I don't think it has any regional tops so far actually. So maybe I actually just put it in other for now. Labyrinth, this is another clear tier 2 pick. It's definitely getting some tops here and there, even now YCS regional level event. And you know what, it did not lose D-Barrier, Eradicator, what have you, Skill Drain even. It's still pretty good. Exorcister, this is something also actually I think is pretty solid. Maybe I'll just put it around here. It's another deck that can use Shifter. It can also use certain floodgates like Gozen matches that really, I guess actually that's not bad against Unchained. They do have a lot of different attributes, like Keshir has kind of fallen, so, and Gozen match used to be really good against that strategy as well. But Exorcister, you know, who knows, maybe Steven Santoli will start topping with this deck again. So I think it's pretty exciting for Exorcister players. Sword Soul is another like reliable rogue deck. I think, you know, for a long time it was always in like the tier 2 conversation. Now it's definitely, I think, falling in rogue. Not getting nearly as many like even regional level tops as it used to. But you know what, it's as solid as they come. You know, the ban list I don't think really affects them that much. Like it's not like Magma. I guess you could. I mean, like the 10U cards, like yeah, sure. I guess the Bestials could actually affect that a little bit. But you know what, for the most part, I think they're okay where they are. Alter guys, sadly, we're also just going to put them here. They did get some new support. It's actually not bad. I've played against this myself, and it can be pretty intimidating going first sometimes. But you know what? I think it hasn't really shown much competitive success as much as I would have hoped, actually. But so I think it's fine to be here. Rika, I think this is also gonna, maybe we'll just put it here. Obviously, like the best shows, that doesn't matter at all for Rika. But you know what? Like with Keshir going down a little bit, who knows? Like, I mean, they can kind of play under Shifter like effects, but at the same time, you know what, that's better that it's not there at all. So I think you just cannot sleep on Rika. Pearly, of course, I don't know how it took us this long to get to them, but it's definitely tier 1 for sure. Like these two are definitely the best decks. As I mentioned, you know, Chimera will be like a distant third in my view. I just find that, you know, it can play a lot of non-engine, so it's like, sure, it has some benefits, but overall its line of play is quite linear and very easy to predict / stop, so I can't really put them in tier 1. It's definitely not in the same level as these two decks in my opinion after playing Chimera. Sky Striker, honestly, oh gosh, other category. Like it was in at least Rogue for a while. I don't know what happened, but it's just completely fallen off. It is another going second deck, which can be quite hard in today's game, and you know, a lot of their cards just like target 2, or like it just it's okay. I think for now, just no competitive success, so we can't really put them anywhere higher. Plunder Patrol. This is another deck that kind of gets slept on, especially because of, Runic does make it a lot more powerful, and Runic did not get hit on that ban list, and so it actually does have some regional top. So, but it's not really being spoken about a lot. So you know what, it's still solid. Scareclaw is another one that's not really being talked about, because I guess for them, like Vanadium plays like a little bit of Scareclaw cards, so I think that's like the only time most players see, this guy. At the same time, pure Scareclaw actually does have a very small number of tops, but that's still better than most decks that are out there, right? And so I think it's pretty interesting. Like, it's kind of like got that link that's sort of like a Baguska, so it's not bad. Some decks just can't deal with that. So yeah, okay, Kashtira. This originally I was gonna put it in Rogue, right? Like at the best of Rogue, but I was actually seeing. So I joined like the Kashtira Facebook duelist group, and I was just seeing like some of the end boards that they're trying to make, and I think they're actually moving towards like going second break board kind of thing, and it's. Honestly, I can't say it's not that bad. Like, Unicorn is still really strong. It's at 2 still. Fenrir is still at 3. It's really good at breaking boards, and they can like really OTK easily, even without, like, let's say if you get D-Buried, like Kashtira has always been known, like even with their main deck monsters alone, they could still like OTK you through like a D-Barrier. Like, their guys are beefy, and now you have all these like powerful going second cards, including like Thrust that can get you to pretty much most really good going second cards. I think you cannot sleep on Kashtira, especially right after the ban list. I think a lot of people will still try to, make Kashtira work, at least at the beginning stages. So I think it's still quite solid. Tier limits, I've always spoken very highly about tier limits. I'm just going to kind of move things around. Even right now, before this ban list took effect, I always talked about, how this deck can be really, really strong, and you just kind of have to avoid you're not playing against something like, like Kashtira or decks that play a lot of Bystials or, let's say, Shifter. So now 2 of those 3 got handled on that ban list, right? Magma to 1, Arise Heart to 0. So now tier limits are looking really, really good, and, it's just a Shifter that kind of sucks. They do have Orange to 3. I mean, would they play it? I don't know. You only have like 1 of each of the Earth Shufflers. Back when they were all at 3, that was just absolutely insane. But you know what? They do still have some plays now, and it's really, really good. I have very high expectations of tier limits. Next, we have Trap Tricks. Unfortunately, I think this is still in the other category as well. You know what? After like the initial structure deck release hype, that was very strong. But I mean, nowadays, I don't even think that many players are running it. But it is like a really cost-efficient deck. So if you're kind of new to Yu-Gi-Oh, I think this is like a really good deck to start out. Heroes, I'm also actually going to put this in Rogue. This actually has also some tops in regional levels. So you know what? You can't sleep on it. Like Dark Angel, pretty strong. You have DP, like constant recursion and pops. Like overall, this deck can be pretty good going first or second. And now Magnemite going to 1 actually really helps this deck out, because Magnemite essentially, not only can you like stop the Dark Angel play, you can also like get rid of that DP as well. So that's always nice. Dragon Link has always been like a really bad matchup for heroes, because aside from a whole ton of Bystials, I guess we'll get to Dragon Link very soon, but they did also lose Chaos Space. Like, I think it's still gonna be a good deck, of course, but heroes, at least I think it's only gotten better for them with this very small hit. That is, of course, when you hit like top decks, you also have to kind of consider, okay, now the side deck starts changing and they can focus on just like, Pearly and Unchained now, for example. So that might actually, indirectly affect a lot of other decks as well, right? Like, as I mentioned earlier, D-Barrier was already seeing a lot of play. And now, maybe Pearly being kind of like the best deck in the tier 1, and you don't have to worry about Kashtira anymore. Maybe it sees even more play, who knows. And speaking of Dragon Link, I think this is still solid tier 2. It lost consistency. It didn't actually lose any like major, like, if they got like Striker Dragon Band, for example, like that, yeah, that's a really big hit. Chaos Space is definitely a really busted card, but I think overall, like, this deck is still good. Wild Magma, yeah, sure, it sucks, but as long as you can resolve 1, like, that's still pretty dang good. And so they have a lot of, cards at their arsenal. They always can adapt. They find ways to adapt. They've been meta for so long for a reason. There's just so many cards that can support dragons, like directly or indirectly. They're gonna figure something out, and I can't see anything lower than tier 2 for this deck. And speaking of that, we're also gonna put Rescue Ace somewhere here. Maybe we'll just put it here for now. It's still solid. It's still getting YCS regional level tops, actually, and I think it's like back row oriented, but at the same time, it's not like floodgate oriented or anything. It's definitely got some combo aspects to it, which is a little interesting. Are they pulling off Ibly Luck? I'm not seeing that much as lately, as I know some lists do, and it has some benefits, but at the very least, it's able to have a lot of recursion and interruption as well. Dinos, lastly, unfortunately, I think I'm going to put this in other as well. Like you have, let's say Wild Survivors. They did get some dino support. At the same time, they also got actually like 2 regional tops at least, but I was told they were like combo dino variant, but nonetheless, it's still dinos. So you know what? It's a fan favorite. It will come back to at least 2. Maybe, you never know. I don't know if they're gonna bother. I think they're gonna be a little more cautious this time because they already tried putting Misk back to 3, and then that really did not go well because they were just absolutely dominating. Misk was really, really crazy, and they put it back to 1. So I think they kind of learned their lesson, and they'll probably be really slow at peeling that one off. So anyways, that was it for my meta tier list of some of the best decks of this current format. I think perhaps I have a little bit too much in this tier 2 section, unfortunately, but you know what, I don't know, someone certainly let me know in the comments how you feel about how the tier is gonna look, and certainly look forward to what you guys all think. So thanks all for watching, and take care, guys.